bhakti samaruda tattvamala vibhushita bhukti mukti pradadaja tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Established in wisdom and love, adorned with the scriptures, the Vedas and the Shastras, the Tevarams and Tiruvachakams and the Tirumurai, the Guru grants us Bhukti and Mukti, the worldly desires and the liberation. My salutation to the Guru. When that holy saint Manikavajagar, who has blessed us by giving us the Tiruvasagam, the immortal Tiruvasagam, when he met his Guru, he was yet to be his Guru. He asked him what he was carrying in his hand. He said, the name of the book is Shiva Jnana Bodham. Then Manikavasagar asked the Guru, what is Shivam? What is Jnanam? What is Bodham? Then the Guru cast a benevolent look of grace on Manikavasagar and gave him the divine vision, Divya Chakshu, which Valluvar calls Masaru Kachi. He immediately got that divine vision that the knower, the known and the knowledge are all personified in his front as in the form of the Guru. And he burst out in a song in ecstasy. Indrena karuli irul kadindu ullathu எழுகின்ற ஞாயிறே போன்று நின்ற நின் தன்மை நினைப்பற நினைந்தேன் நீ அலால் பிரிது மற்று இன்மை. He says, O Lord, incarnate, you have come as my Guru, and your very presence has dispelled the darkness of ignorance in me, like the sun when it rises dispels the darkness of night. My mind is absolutely stilled and there is nothing but you, and I see you, the whole place pervaded by you. Oh my Lord, what a beautiful vision you have granted me. Manikavasagar sings. See, our tradition, the Guru is Lord incarnate. The God himself comes in the form of the human person. He says, the Lord wears a human habit. Manuda Chattai, it's called in Tiruku, in the scriptures. He comes in the form of the human being to give us the everlasting life. We have such a long tradition, starting from the Adi Guru Dakshinamurti, from the top of the Himalayas down to the southern tip of Sri Lanka. We have sages and saints in the form of gurus giving us beautiful messages of hope and God consciousness, bestowing us with their blessings. And we have such a big Siddha tradition, starting from Tirumoolar, who towers above the rest of the 5th century. And recently we have our beloved Yoga Swamigal of Jaffna, who was able to, with just a pat on the back, made a young man. He gave him the spark of spirituality which he carried to the west and made it a roaring flame. And that is what we see today in the person of Swami Bodhinath, who is a successor of Shivaya Subramanya Muni. It is amazing how these gurus can inspire the whole lot. Now, from his speech, the discourse, the loving kindness with which he gave us the message of Skanda and the Kandar Anubhuti. That Anubhuti, how without realization you can't impart that knowledge. Unless you have realized it, you can't show that realization, make an imprint on the people. And that's what we have seen. It is amazing how in the West, Hinduism has gone and made such a name and fame and institutions and so many endowments and temples and the temple worship. And when we see all that, it puts us, the so-called, we are the traditional Hindus, and we take it for granted that we are Hindus. And it puts us to shame to see that we have to know the code of conduct to go to the temple. Beautifully the Swamiji gave us such a nice message for us to carry home. Every time you come to the temple, how you should behave, how you should worship, all that he has given. We are very deeply grateful to the Swamiji for this loving kindness and the nice talk that he has given, and he has graced this city with his presence and with his message. We are deeply grateful also to the people who have organized this and made this possible for us to meet His Holiness and his followers who have come in such large numbers. And that itself is a great inspiration for all of us. And somebody said, we talk of conversion and all, that in India that is a big worry. But when you see such people doing so much work in the West, now I was thinking, what we have so much to hope for. We have great hope rising within us, and we have no fear. Thank you. I once again deeply say how we are all gratefully thankful to the Swamiji, Bodhinath Swami, for all the things that he has done us and blessed us. It is a great privilege and a greater blessing that he has conferred on the Sydney people. Thank you.
The child is missing, and the parents need to figure out what that knowledge is. It is fine to punish the child with positive discipline methods, such as time out and appropriate natural and logical consequences, and using reason without blame and shame. However, it is always good to avoid any use of physical violence, anger, irrational punishments, or blame and shame. These forms of correction all cause the child's consciousness to drop into intense fear, and therefore make it very difficult for the child to remember what he or she is told. Can't remember because they're so fearful. This, of course, is counterproductive to the child's learning the lessons from the experience and thus not repeating the same mistake again, which, of course, is the foremost goal. Moving on, we have 4 reactions to making a mistake. A common first reaction to having made a mistake is to become upset that we made the mistake, get emotional about it, or if it's a serious mistake, to become quite burdened and even depressed. That is a natural first reaction, but if it is our only reaction, it is not enough. We need to deal with the emotional reaction to the action and move on to the learning stage. Thus, a good second reaction to a mistake is to think clearly about what happened, discover why the mistake occurred. Only then can we find a way to not repeat the mistake in the future. Perhaps we were not being careful enough, and resolving to be more careful next time will prevent the problem from occurring. Perhaps we did not know something, and now we have that knowledge and can simply remind ourselves to use that knowledge next time. Perhaps we created unintended consequences that cause significant problems for us or others. Now that we are aware of the consequences, we certainly won't repeat the action. Those who are striving to live a spiritual life are self-reflective and learn quickly from their mistakes. In fact, one way to tell a young soul from an old soul is to observe how quickly he learns not to repeat the same mistake. The worship of Lord Murugan can be quite helpful in giving us the wisdom that helps us learn quickly from a mistake. The fewer times we make the same mistake, the faster we are moving forward spiritually. We can go to the temple and pray to Lord Murugan to help us understand the pattern of desires and actions we are experiencing, and ask for his veil of wisdom to help us see clearly how to learn from this cycle of experiences and improve our behavior so that we can move forward on the spiritual path. Quite often I get an email from someone who made a mistake and they are grumbling, "Oh, I should not have done this." Of course, this is just getting stuck at the first level of reaction. "I shouldn't have done it. I am sorry." I encourage them to move on to the second level. Instead of saying, "I shouldn't have done it," to say, "I shouldn't do it again." That is the point we are striving for. Not to simply feel sorry that we made a mistake, but to commit to not making it again, or at least trying our best not to make it again. Taking that step is being self-reflective, and it is how we progress on the spiritual path. Remember, the spiritual path is a series of experiences, and sometimes we make mistakes. If we can learn from those mistakes and not make them again, then we definitely progress. If we are constantly making the same mistake over and over and over again, we are not progressing. A third reaction to having made a mistake may be needed if the mistake involved other people. Perhaps we have hurt their feelings or created a strain between us. A direct apology can fix this if we know the other person well. However, in many situations we are not close enough to the individual to be able to apologize. In that case, a generous act toward them can adjust the flow of feelings back into a harmonious condition. For example, hold a small dinner party and include them among the guests. A fourth reaction may be needed if the mistake is a major misdeed. For example, if we did something that was dishonest. In this case, even though we have resolved to not repeat the misdeed and have apologized to those involved, we may still feel bad about having done it. In this case, we need to perform some form of penance, prayaschitta, to rid ourselves of the sense of feeling bad about ourselves. Typical forms of penance are fasting, performing 108 prostrations before the deity, or walking prostrations up a sacred path or around a temple. Thaipusam festival, when Lord Murugan is worshipped, is the traditional time for performing penance to atone for misdeeds. Carrying kavadi and other forms of penance should never be done for the purpose of impressing others. They have this problem in Malaysia where the teenage boys want to impress the teenage girls. That's the purpose of carrying kavadi. So they carry the biggest kavadi they can. So that's not the right reason for carrying kavadi. So let me find my place here. Rather kavadi should be done having in mind specific misdeeds you are atoning for, as well as promising Lord Murugan not to repeat them again. Let me say that again. The idea of kavadi is we should know why we're doing kavadi. What deed is it that we regret having done? Or what series of deeds is it we regret having done? We should also be promising Lord Murugan we're not going to do it again. All of that is an important part of carrying kavadi to make it a true penance in the deepest sense. One of the themes of this talk is that Lord Murugan is traditionally worshipped to invoke the forces of divinity to overcome the forces of darkness. And the process of atoning for misdeeds is an excellent example of this. Gurudeva describes atonement from a mystical point of view. When we perform penance and beseech Murugan's blessing, this merciful God hurls his veil into the astral plane, piercing discordant sounds, colors, and shapes, and removing the mind's darkness. Unquote. Let me conclude with another quote from Gurudeva, which provides an excellent summary of the power of Lord Murugan's veil of wisdom. The Shakti power of the veil, the eminent, intricate power of righteousness over wrongdoing, conjures confusion within the realms below. The holy veil that when thrown always hits its mark and of itself returned to Kartikeya's mighty hand, rewards us when righteousness prevails and becomes the Kundalini serpent's unleashed power thwarting our every effort with punishing remorse when we transgress Dharma's law. Thus the holy veil is our release from ignorance into knowledge, our release from vanity into modesty, our release from sinfulness into purity through tapas. Thank you very much. Om Murugan.
It was in 1995 that Gurudeva stood on this same stage. He was here to support all of your efforts to build this temple. At that time the Murtis were up here. This was the temple in those days. And then a few years later, with all of your wonderful hard work and all of his support and love and guidance, we had this temple. And Gurudeva created 36 more temples like this around the world in his lifetime. In Europe, in America, all over. It was one of his wonderful loving missions was to support temple worship and build temples. I mean, the Saivites are the greatest temple builders of all time. And some thought that he was Raja Chola himself, reborn 1100 years later. So Gurudeva did all of that, and of course, when you do something, it comes back to you. You can't give it away. He was in Fiji and at a temple that was trying to come up, and they were trying to raise money, having a very hard time, and so he pulled $500 out of his pocket and he put it in a hat and asked everyone to join him in building the temple. He loved to tell the story. Then he came home to the Aadheenam a few days later and he said, you know, I put that $500 into that hat, and you know, it's a lot of money for a monk, and wasn't an hour later, someone came up with an envelope and said, Swami, this is a little dakshina for you. He said, $500. And he gave it right back. So in that same spirit, his temple building has come back to us. We're trying to also build a temple, the Sriravindrarajah Temple in Hawaii. And as it happens, some wonderful people from this wonderful country have been enormously supportive of that effort. And among them, Ageshwari, Nataraja, where are you? Has put her heart and soul into support of Gurudeva's temple in Hawaii. And she's come back to Australia, and she found friends and neighbors and family and got them all to also support the temple. And not only that, in the process of getting acquainted with Gurudeva and with all of us, I guess already come, she fell in love with Hinduism today. Didn't you? Yes. She fell in love with Hinduism today. And of course, Hinduism today is our voice to connect all of the Hindus around the whole globe. And she loved that idea so much, and she goes to the editor. I'm the editor. And since she wrote such nice letters, we published them in Hinduism Today, and we were very proud to. and for all of her support and all of her affection and all of her work to help Gurudeva and now Bodhinath build this Siva citadel in Hawaii. We have a small way of saying thank you to you, Nageshwari. Nageshwari is not the only one in the country. There's many. But we'd like to single out one more special family, Dr. and Mrs. Nagaratnam, that have been so instrumental in helping us build this temple. They themselves, as a family, have built our East Gopuram, which is one of the golden towers of Sriravindrarajah Temple. They've given and given and given, and then when you thought that all the giving was done, then they reached deeper and gave more. And not just of their financial resources, which was significant, but of their love and their support and their encouragement and their affection, and that's what really is building a temple. Gurudeva loved to say, the money doesn't really build a good temple. It'll build an edifice, but what builds a temple is the love and the sadhana and the devotion of the people who are doing it together. And Gurudeva found it enormously charming that 8,600 people from all over the globe were helping build this little temple in Hawaii. You know, on our island in Hawaii, there's about 6 Hindus. It's 50,000 people, 6 Hindus. And then there's a little monastery up there with 20 more in it. But it's way out of the way, and it's not in the middle of things, and it's a remarkable thing that it's even come up. The people on our island cannot believe it. They come, the mayors come, the businessmen come, and they look at this marvelous, artistic, glorious Chola-style temple, and they say, how in the world is this happening on our little island? Where's all the Hindus? And we tell them they're all over the world. And so the Nagaratnam family is here, and I would like to invite you up. Can you come up to the stage? I see you. Please come both. Bodhinath has a shawl for you to express our gratitude.
I think it's been an unforgettable evening for many of us. I'm sure that all of you enjoyed this evening. So just to have a few announcements to make. First thing is, there will be a visit by Bodhinath on Shiva Mandir, Minto, on 25th January, 7:30 p.m. Then there will be a visit on the Australia Day on 26th to Venkateshwar Temple at 3 p.m. So I hope you will join the team. We have come from Hawaii to give a welcoming hand when you go to this temple. So there are other announcements here. There's a display of some literature from Kauai Aadheenam at the back of the hall. Please feel free to go through them. There are some free publications to be distributed. And also Sadhguru Bodhinath will give Vibhuti and ask people to please form a line and get his blessings. During the time, there will be a 20-minute DVD on Sanmarka Sriravindrarajah Temple, and how I will be shown while Bodhinath is blessing the devotees. So with that, I thank everyone to be present here in a large number. I expect everybody benefited from his talk. At the same time, obviously, there's a long way to go. This is the message we got from Sadhguru, and let us keep that message in our mind and let us progress spiritually and religiously and achieve whatever we are supposed to do as a good Hindu or good Saivite.